and the secrets she whispered at midnight. My name is Adrian, and I've lived most of my life believing in loyalty. Loyalty in business, in friendships, in marriage. But the problem with loyalty is that it makes you blind to whispers, blind to shadows, blind to the subtle shifts in someone you think you know better than anyone else. And when the truth finally arrives, it doesn't knock gently. It smashes the door down and leaves you standing in the ruins of everything you thought was solid. Her name was Julia. My wife, my partner for almost 8 years, the woman who could disarm me with a smile and break me with a glance. She was warmth in public, softness in private, the kind of woman who made men stare when she entered a room. I always told myself it didn't matter because she was mine. But that word, mine, turns to poison once you realize you're no longer the only one. It started with silence. Not the comfortable silence of long relationships, but a charged silence, heavy and deliberate. She stopped asking about my day, stopped laughing at my stupid jokes, stopped reaching for my hand when we walked together. And then came the late nights. Work drinks, she said. A friend's birthday, she said. And I believed her because belief was easier than suspicion. But then one night, while she showered, her phone lit up on the nightstand. A message preview, innocent to anyone else, devastating to me. Last night I can still feel you. My chest hollowed, my throat tightened, and in that instant the man I had been was gone. I didn't confront her. Not then. Instead, I kissed her cheek when she came to bed, tasted the faint echo of wine on her lips, and lay awake wondering who else she had kissed with that same mouth. I followed her 2 nights later. I told her I had a late meeting, kissed her goodbye, and waited until she left. She drove across town, parked outside a boutique hotel, and I watched a man, tall, confident, with the kind of careless smile that cuts deeper than a knife, take her hand as if it had always been his. They kissed under the streetlight before disappearing inside. Not hesitation, not guilt, just hunger. That image burned itself into me. I went home, poured whiskey until the glass was empty and the room spun, and told myself I'd end it. But when she returned hours later, slipping into bed beside me, her skin warm and her scent different, I did nothing. I pretended to sleep. Maybe I was afraid of the finality of the truth. Maybe I wanted her to confess. She never did. Days turned to weeks, and in those weeks I became someone else. I looked at other women differently, noticing the curve of a stranger's smile, the way her eyes lingered. It wasn't revenge at first, not consciously, but it became an inevitability. Her betrayal had unlocked something in me, something darker, sharper, unafraid of consequences. Her name was Elena, a woman I met at a client dinner. She was bold, her laughter spilling into the room like fire, her eyes daring me to look longer than I should. After a few drinks, we found ourselves outside, the air heavy between us. She touched my hand, simple, electric, and I didn't pull away. Later, in her apartment, the world narrowed to breath and heat, and the sound of her voice breaking in the dark. I told myself it was an escape, a moment to remember I was still a man who could be desired. But in truth, it was betrayal answering betrayal. I thought I'd feel guilt. Instead, I felt alive. And so the spiral deepened. Julia with her lies, me with mine. Our home became a stage, each of us performing roles we no longer believed in. She kissed me with lips that had been on him. I kissed her back with lips that had been on Alina. At times it felt almost comical, two actors, bound by vows that had lost their meaning, each too stubborn to walk away. But secrets don't stay in the dark forever. One evening I arranged to meet Alina at a quiet bar across town. I didn't know Julia would be there. Not with him. But fate has a cruel sense of humor. When she walked in, her arm entwined with his, my chest tightened. For a moment, the world froze. Alina at my side, Julia with her lover, and the truth finally visible to all of us. Julia's eyes met mine, wide with recognition, then narrowing with something closer to triumph than shame. She walked over, her heels striking the floor like gunshots. "Looks like we're both guilty," she whispered, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. The ride home was silent, but the silence wasn't empty, it was loaded, explosive. When the door closed behind us, the storm broke. We shouted, accused, spat truths and lies until our throats burned. She admitted everything. So did I, and then in the middle of the wreckage of words, she kissed me. Hard, desperate, angry. What followed wasn't reconciliation. It was war disguised as passion. We tore at each other in bed, every touch both punishment and plea, every kiss violent and raw. It wasn't love. It wasn't forgiveness. It was survival, two people proving to themselves that, despite everything, the fire was still there. In the morning, nothing was fixed. The air still reeked of betrayal, our words still hung between us like knives. But something had changed. The masks were gone. No more pretending. We both knew, and somehow that knowledge tied us together tighter than the lies ever did. We stayed together after that. Not because we rebuilt trust, trust was dead, buried beneath the weight of our infidelities, but because leaving meant admitting the ruins were all that remained. And maybe, in some twisted way, the danger of our deceit made us crave each other more. Every touch became a test, every night a battle, every kiss a question neither of us dared answer. Sometimes I hate her. Sometimes I want her more than ever. Sometimes both at once. That's what betrayal does. It doesn't end love. It corrupts it, sharpens it, makes it burn in ways that both destroy and sustain. And so I remain, tangled in her lies, tangled in my own, bound by scars instead of vows. Because love and betrayal aren't enemies. They're twins, inseparable, each giving meaning to the other. And every night when I watch Julia sleeping beside me, I wonder if she dreams of him while I dream of her, and whether in the end we're both exactly where we belong, trapped but unable to let go.